Inducing cognition via production of emotions. In order to assess the first hypothesis, the experimenter decided to direct and manipulate states of emotion which could be anger or euphoria. The experimenters concentrated on socially determining factors of emotional states, which is essentially how people evaluate the way they felt by comparing themselves with others around them. In one condition, the subject was put in company with a stooge who had been trained to act euphorically, entertaining the subject, making the subject laugh and smile. In the second set of conditions, the subject was put with a stooge trained to act angrily, with behaviour designed to annoy and agitate the participants. The protests conducted had indicated that for most subjects, epinephrine caused symptoms that had started to set in 3 to 5 minutes after the injection had been administered. An intentional attempt was made to bring the stooge within 1 minute after the subject's injection. Euphoria situation. Right after the subject had been administered with the injection, the physician left the room and the experimenter came back with a stooge/actor who he introduced as merely another subject. They were told how both of them had been given the Suproxen shot and how they both would be taking the same tests of vision. The experimenter then asked them to wait 20 minutes. The reason being that the administered drug takes 20 minutes at a minimum to take its course into the blood via the bloodstream. At the conclusion of 20 minutes, the researchers will be certain that the epinephrine has been circulated, and then the tests will begin. The room in which the participants had been put was deliberately in a state of mild disorder and mess, at which the experimenter added how he was apologetic about the state of the room. He continued by informing the participants of the material available to them, which were scratch papers, rubber bands, hula hoops, folders, and pencils. He then said to help themselves and how he will return in 20 minutes' time. As the experimenter left, the stooge/actor gained more ground for conversation, introducing himself and making icebreaker conversation, finally easing into his routine. The routine was completely standardized, which comprised of interacting with and entertaining the subject, with the stooge asking the subject to come and join with him in the fun activities, which consisted in playing with the rough papers, pencils and rubber bands apparatus. The only variation was how the stooge had to fluctuate pace of the act according to the participant's mood, reaction, interactivity, and etc. Furthermore, the other type of variation was at the subject's part, where if he wanted to initiate any act of his own in the routine, this would usually be intercepted by the stooge and they would collaborate. The subject never knew that this was an act all along. Keep the exposure to demand characteristics tightly controlled. Anger situation. Right after the subject had been administered with the injection, the experimenter brought the stooge/actor into the room, introduced the two and explained the need for a 20-minute interval for the Suproxen to circulate into the bloodstream. They then were handed out questionnaires by the experimenters and were told to fill them in 20 minutes when they will return and the vision tests will commence. Before even starting the questionnaire and before even looking at it, stooge's prompt, the stooge aggravated the subject by saying how he just wanted to come here for an experiment and how it's unethical of them to give us shots/injections. He added how they could have been informed about the injections when they had been selected for the study, as one doesn't refuse once you're already in. This questionnaire was 5 pages long and tedious to fill. It was also intrusive of one's privacy, asking deeply personal and offensive questions. For example, question 7 was about foods eaten in a normal day, whereas question 34 asked about family matters. The stooge sat directly opposite to the subject so that he could keep up with the pace, working on the questions that the subject was working on. Standardization. The stooge listed a sequence of standardized comments about the questions. His comments progressively got angrier. For example, before starting, he goes through and flips through the questionnaire saying, "Boy, this is a long one." Question 17 asked, "What is your father's annual income?" To which the stooge responds, "This is really none of their business, I'm irritated and I'm leaving that blank." Questions were present that intruded on a very personal level, such as, "How many times each week do you have sexual intercourse?" On which the stooge bites out, "To hell with it. I'm not telling them this." The concluding question was, "With how many men, other than your father, has your mother had extramarital relationships?" On a scale from 1 to 10. Subjects in the APIGN, APINF, and placebo conditions were run through this anger-inducing sequences. The stooge did not know to which condition the subject had been assigned in reality. In summary, 7 conditions were employed to test out 2 emotional states. The APMIS condition was not played out in the anger sequence as this was originally planned as a control condition, and thus this being tested in Euphoria alone would be enough to evaluate the effect of APINF instructions. Get complete notes in PDF and book form from our Amazon store. Link given in description.